Partial mobilization, which Putin announced last week, will hit the well-being of federal regions and subsequently the Russian budget in total, experts are sure. Those areas in which most of the men of working age will be drafted will suffer the most. There are already examples of when almost half of the male population is brought to assembly points from some villages from the Russian Far East, like the Republic of Buryatia or the Republic of Sakha, Yakutia. This means that the already long stagnating local economy will be on the verge of a collapse. Thousands of families will be left without income, and local medium and small businesses will simply cease to exist. It seems to me that if before the mobilization it was possible to say that the Russian gross domestic product, GDP, would fall by 4 to 5% this year, then now my prediction for spring is of 10% fall. Seems almost overly optimistic. Władysław Inozemtsev, economist, sociologist, director of the Center for Research on Post-Industrial Societies, in the material of The Insider. At the same time, the army budget will increase. From buying winter uniforms to supplying the military with the necessary equipment, it will be more difficult to allocate funds for all this with an increase in the budget deficit. The funds will be taken from the social spheres, as it happened before in Russia, experts suggest.
По сути, они сейчас набирают новую армию. У них вся армия 2 миллиона.
In fact, they are now recruiting a new army. They have an army of 2 million soldiers. That is, this double blow to the budget is that 2 million people of working age are breaking out of the economy, who worked at their workplace, produced additional value, paid taxes to the enterprises they worked for, and so on. Now, these people are being taken away to the war. In the fourth quarter of this year, that is, already this autumn, Russia will feel a new round of influence from the Western sanctions. Given that almost 60% of the Russian budget revenues used to come from the sale of energy resources. Now, with the introduction of a coal embargo, oil price restrictions, and a partial rejection of the Russian gas, the state budget of Russia will lose a significant part of its profits.
Ось ця мобілізація, яку оголосив
This mobilization announced by Putin will put a very heavy burden on the Russian budget. They already expect about 2% of the budget deficit by the end of the year, because if earlier they had a surplus due to the excess profits from oil and gas, then according to Russian media, this mobilization will cost about 20 extra billion rubles a year for the Russian budget, and they already have problems with both oil and gas revenues and domestic taxes. So, in our opinion, internal destabilization of the economy will only increase in the coming months.
It will be difficult to maintain the military-industrial complex in such conditions. Russian arms producers has already forgotten about the production and sales of modern equipment and armaments. Experts assure us of that.
Ми розуміємо з
We understand from the military analytics that Russia can produce full-cycle missiles for multiple rocket launchers, such as the BM-21 Grad and the BM-30 Smerch, as well as armored vehicles. We're talking about infantry fighting vehicles and tanks, but already without modern elements, such as laser rangefinder or night vision devices, and they can also produce cartridges. This, in fact, is all that they can produce without the help of others in a full cycle.
Russian sociologists warn that the announcement of mobilization, even partial, is more destructive for Russia than the start of the war itself. Protests in the poor regions, where almost half of the population has already been mobilized, could lead to the collapse of the Putin regime in the visible future. Reported by Pavlo Stelmach, Larisa Zubenko, UATV News.